All right. I think what'll be interesting is to explain how I go about marking a Floyd rose so that I'll be able to get this bridge recessed into the body. All right. Floyd rose markings installation. Let's get this going. Okay, we have the original Floyd rose. Not plugging any names, but this happens to be a bridge of choice for me. Very well made bridge. Okay, all right. Now I've got a center line here that will really help out. And with my square, I drew some cross lines here, giving us a 90-degree. So everything's pretty square. As you can see, I did my tremolo routing here, my humbucking routing based on these lines. The way I had marked these lines here was in a previous video. So going by this center line, I set the bridge in between these two saddles. I basically, as you can see, it can move up and down. So I move it forward all the way with the existing route. Now as I press here on the back of the bridge, you can see that it's at an angle. If I put a straight edge on the bridge, you can see it's moved forward on this side. So that's due to the alignment or manufacturing of the tremolo arm stud here. As you can see, as I run the straight edge on this plane of the block, the front of the block, it hits right here. So as I move forward, it'll elevate the straight edge probably about 1/16 of an inch or more. So this portion right here of the tremolo arms insert touches approximately in this area here. Therefore, if I press forward, which I need to do, it's going to push this part of the bridge forward. So easy fix, just straighten out the tremolo parallel with these lines. As you can see, we've got a straight line here. It matches the front of the tremolo, and it also matches the humbucking. Everything is like centered pretty well and squared pretty well. So what I'm going to do is align this front part of the tremolo to this humbucking line. And this is all just an approximation. I'm looking down and I can see that I'm right in between these two saddles here. And that basically aligns the bridge upwards and downwards at this point. Now what I'm going to do next, I want to see if this bridge is aligned with this fingerboard. So I simulate a low E string. Now what I'm doing is I'm putting the string right on top of the center of that saddle. I fit the string right in there. You may not be able to see it. My thumb's probably blocking that, but I hold the string at that position on the saddle, and I come in about 1/8 of an inch, and I look down this way at the string, and I can see how much of the fingerboard extends beyond in this direction of the string. And what I want to do is balance this low E side to the high E side, aligning the string the same way. Now as I'm looking down, I can see that there is more fingerboard at this point than there is here. So what I'm going to do is drop the bridge down slightly in that direction, keeping this straight here, parallel, the front of the tremolo parallel with this humbucker edge. And I make the assessment again. Okay, I can see it's a little over 1/8 of an inch that I'm seeing there on this particular fingerboard. This happens to be a 2 1/4 butt width on the fingerboard. This is an ebony fingerboard, 24th fret. So let me simulate that low E string again. Okay, I see the amount of fretboard extending beyond the E string, and likewise here. Now what I'm talking about when I say that is the string is approximately here and this distance to the end. String, low E, high E string here to the end of the fretboard. I need to balance that out. It needs to be equal on both sides. Oh, that looks about right. You might be wondering why I've measured 2 1/4 right here. 2 1/4 butt width. I do that for the reasons of string roll off. If the string is real close to the edge, it'll roll off when you're soloing or playing your guitar. More so on this side, because we're more soloing on the high E strings, and you don't really want that. And it could happen here too, if the string is real close. It'll just roll off. That's what I mean by string roll off. So typically it's about 2 3/16, give or take. But I think I found that going to 2 1/4, it makes the neck a little wider on either side, which is good, helping with that problem of string roll off. So, all right, moving on. Okay, I'm going to check scaling. So we take our measuring tape and we go from the nut position to the bridge saddle, and I can see that it's pretty much there, 25 1/2. It might need to go. Now sometimes I use the 1-inch scale. I'll measure from the 1-inch mark because I don't know about the play that, I don't know if you can see the front of that tape moving back and forth. I'm pretty sure they set it so when it moves forward, the end of this measuring tape, that it will give you the correct measurement. But there's times, and I will do this a lot, where I use the number 1 mark, come over here, so instead of it reading 25 1/2, it'll read 26 1/2, and I think we're right on right there. I think it looks pretty good. Let's try it again. 25 1/2. You don't want to read up here because you're definitely going to be off. You've got a radius that's created from the point of measurement. So I try to bring it as low as possible, bring the tape as low as possible to the saddle. And I can see that's, maybe you can see if I can do this. 25 1/2 is right there on top of the saddle. Right there where the string leaves. And now when you're intonating the guitar, you've got play. I mean, you've got room here and here to adjust the saddle when you intonate the guitar. So right now is where the bridge is set. for me to start my markings. So I pull out my straight edge, and we're going to do a recessed cavity into the body to bring the bridge profile lower to accommodate this style of guitar. It's a neck through, and it's all one straight plane here. There is no angle. There is no angle put on this neck at all, although I have done that at times. But with Floyd Rose, this is like a replacement for a flat Fender style tremolo that goes into the body, or on top of the body, I'm sorry, and then it allows for the saddle adjustment to give you good action here. So being that the Floyd Rhodes are taller, if I simulated a string here, we've got too much of a gap at this point for fine tuning. And we also have bridge movement. I mean, if I had installed this bridge flat onto the body without any recess, by the time you put it on the post and you elevate the bridge even more, the action's going to get even higher. So, I can bring it up. I mean, we're almost at 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch right here. That's way too much. So we're going to drop the bridge down. Recessed Floyd installation. I guess I should have said that earlier, but anyway. So what we're going to do is make a periphery line all the way around the bridge, and basically it's giving you the clearance so the bridge can move. So I'm going to do some small pencil marks here because I can see this way. It's going to be, I would say, about 3/32 of an inch. So you can measure, let's see, if I put that there. It might even be a 1/16 of an inch. Let's go with 32nd less. So, I mean, just by looking, I can make guidelines like here, about a 1/16 of an inch. There, one in the front. Okay, then we need one here. So that would be about right there. We need a guideline if I'm looking straight down. That looks good. Approximately right there. And we already have a line here. It's from their existing Tremolo route. But I'll show you in a minute why I'm doing this. And we're going to come out to about right here. Okay, those are my markings here, and I'll show you right now how to do this. We're going to need a straight edge. We're also going to need a 90-degree. And let's see if I can get my basic lines. Let's draw the front end. You can see what I'm doing here is I'm aligning the straight edge with our center line, since that's been our focal point at the beginning. And you really, like I said earlier on some of these other videos, you have small discrepancies from the start, and you keep adding discrepancies. By the time you get to the finish end, you could have a problem. So I'm looking at this here, and that looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is draw a front line here. Let's kind of finish that off, make it a little longer. Now, I do not want to claim that this is the only way to do this. I mean, there's probably as many different minds out there that are creating guitars. They can figure out their own way of recessing a tremolo. This works for me. This is my approach. If it helps you, great. If it doesn't, well, that's fine. If you feel you've got better ways of doing this, go for it. I love it. I love those who are trendsetters of their own kind here, their own designs and concepts. So we're ultimately going to end up with radiuses here. I mean, you can meet these lines up. I'll do it for the sake of getting a better perspective of what this looks like. Okay, you can see where I'm going with creating the area that I'm going to route. And we've got a line here. Let's see. Like so, like do. There we go. Okay, then we've got a line right here to do. Like that. And we have one here. Now, even though I draw these lines and they're looking pretty square, pretty right angle, but there's times when I've had to make an adjustment here and there, which is fine, you know, just do it. All right, let's my lighting is not the best lighting here. Okay, there's one mark. I'm going by this guideline here to make our back line right here. Okay. Oh, I didn't do that far enough right here on this side, so let me. I've got the shadow, the light shining in the front here, but it's not shining back here. I've got a little bit of a shadow. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I just needed that little. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand. Well, I have done that in the past, but I'm going to erase the lines that I don't want to confuse me. And you'll see what will happen here. Okay, you can start to see my area. It works for me, and I hope it'll work for you. Just try it out and make improvements if you will. Okay, we don't want to see these lines right here. Trust me, when I eliminate some of these lines, it makes it easier for me when I route. You can get confused and end up routing, like, you know, you might end up routing to this line here when you need to come out to here. So I'm eliminating that potential, which could create error in routing. Wood is good. You can always correct your routing errors if you will, but why not try and prevent them if you can? There. Good enough for rock and roll. We can basically, you can see, and before I route, well, I'll darken these lines up. That'll make it easier for me to see. And this is all, I used to route these by hand with a hand router, which you can do, but I'm going to use my overarm pin router, and I'll see if I can get that on video so you can see how I do that. Freehand routing, steady hand. Now, anytime you're running heavy machinery that's got sharp cutters of any kind, whether it be a bandsaw, thickness planer, joiner, overarm router, drill press, jigsaw, skill saw, be very, very careful. Know your surroundings, know your limits. Never force cut at all. Let the blades cut with minimal movement. What I'll do in some cases is I'll get wax, just a little bit of wax from a bar, and just rub it on. You don't want to put too much because you may have finish application issues, but the wax on the metal table will allow this to slide a lot easier. So now when you're running this machinery, make sure you study safety procedures. If you're running machinery, I'm going to show my methods. They may not be right. All I know is they work for me. But make sure you read your brochures, read your instructions on safety, and remember you're using machinery and cutting at your own risk. Please focus, pay attention. When you're running a piece of machinery, if somebody calls your name, don't turn your head and look as you're cutting. Never, never, ever do that. If somebody calls your name and you're running machinery, stop your cutting, lift up any blades, or don't move anything until you back away, focus, and shut off your machines. Wait till it stops completely, then look at your individual that may be calling your name. Trust me, you certainly don't want to be turning your head and running your piece of material through a blade, and then there goes your thumb, there goes your finger. It can happen. Focus completely on your cutting, shaping, routing, milling, whatever you want to call it. Okay, getting back to our shape, you can see our pattern right here. That should accommodate the outside shape of this bridge to the degree that I need it. Okay, I'm looking here at my distance. We got to come out to here. These screws need clearance. We're going down, so that's why we're cutting this cavity. We're going like this. Now, based on what I'm seeing here, I'm right on that line. I missed my mark a little bit. I came in a little bit there, which it did make a difference. So I'm going to extend this line out. This is not right. Measure twice, measure 3 times. Okay, about right. I can see my existing mark. I'm going to come out a little bit more, and I think that'll solve my issue of clearance. You definitely have to have this clearance for Tremolo bridge operation. You don't want to create any binding issues. I'll just quickly check that. Okay, that looks a lot better. we've got some, we have to allow for movement here. I could probably even go a little more, but let's see. I think I'm going to make it a little more. Let's make it about out there. I mean, it's not going to make or break the function of this tremolo. Clearance. You got to have the clearance. Clearance. Okay. Let's realign this. Draw our line. I can draw as many lines as I want, you know. The important thing is to get it right. Do what it takes to make it happen correctly. There we go. I think we got it now. Just run this line all the way across. Okay. I love these rulers. I mean, metal. I've got two here that I use quite often. I've used these so many times for straight edge marking. They're great to have, and you get about 3 or 4 of them, have them around the shop, because trust me, you will use them. There. Just about have our markings for routing. Let's put the bridge in, realign it. Remember, it will go in at an angle. That's why this looks off if I press all the way. So I have to back off this side that way. Center it. Bada beep, bada whoop, about like that. Get a little more. There, I don't know if you can, well, you may not be able to see this, but there's 3/32 distance all the way around here, clearing the outside dimension of this bridge. Now, when we paint the guitar, you know, we'll get a little bit of paint there, but we'll still have clearance. You want to make it a nice, comfortable, tight feel, but then you want to be able to have plenty of room so this bridge can move up and down. All right, let's check our scaling and string alignment. This is string alignment from the bridge saddle to the nuts, about 1/8 of an inch distance between the edge of the fretboard and the string. And I'm looking at this distance here from the string to the edge of the fingerboard. Looking straight down, that looks pretty good. Same on this side. And that looks good. Scaling at 25.5. This particular scale happens to be 25.5 inches. That's your Fender Stratocaster scaling, Telecaster. Gibson is shorter than this. This was a specification request from the customer. Very important, along with the nut width, butt width, pickup position, shape, neck through, locking system. Okay. Once again, we've got a line here, which is in front of the bridge. We have a little bit of a line extended out here, out here, out here. Here we got room for this to not hit. Come over here. This distance here is about equal to this one. Actually, it looks like a little more. I think I'm going to open this side a little bit. Here, here. Make our corrections. Let's take this down. Okay, we're going to come out just a slight amount there. Okay. Using this edge here to align. Okay, all right. It wasn't much, but it's going to make a difference. You gotta have that clearance, so that's what we're setting up here. Let's try it again, and I think that'll work just fine. Yeah, that's much better now. Now we've got a little bit of a... Yeah. Okay. So, the request given by this customer is he wants this back end 1.5 inches deep. And typically it's about 3/8. He wanted to assure that he could pull the bridge back and not hit anything. And from now the front part here, this is 1.25 deep. You can get all this information on the internet. Just look up Floyd Rose installation, and I'm sure they'll have all these different dimensions. They'll do. I've seen schematics where this is all done in metric form. You can get templates with drawings on it and place on here, but you know, I'll tell you, there's nothing like doing it this way, because I take the bridge, I mount it based on the routings that I've done, type of wood that I'm using, the dimensions of the overall guitar. I make certain that this bridge will fit and accommodate what's here. Somebody else's concept, basically they're just guidelines, so you might consider that. Just use information, even what I'm showing you, just use it as a guideline and fine-tune your work. Okay, so what we're going to do is draw. This line is already here, but from see, that looks a little. I'm going to draw a line right here, here, and here. This line and this line. This area here is going to be 1/4 inch deep. So that's pretty much it. The next step is to go to the router, overarm pin router, and what I will do is route this depth first all the way around. All this gets routed 1/4 inch, and we're going to end up with radiuses here, here, here. All the corners are going to be radiused 1/2 inch, because the router bit that I use on my overarm pin router is 1/2 inch, and it actually looks pretty nice. To get like a square form like this, for one, I don't think it looks all that great. You're not going to need it, because these areas here and here and here, they're radiused, and you're not going to have a problem hitting here. See that radius? We have one here, and this will be radius just to bring the cut in a little nicer. Now on this point here and this point here, I'll take my Dremel and I'll cut in, and this will be half inch, half inch, half inch, half inch radius, and these will be 1/4 inch radiuses. So it's smaller, it's a smaller curve. You need to do that, so if I left it at half inch, we may have some wood here that this will hit, that corner and this front corner. So 1/4 inch radius, 1/4 inch radius, half inch, half inch, half inch, and half inch. 1/4 inch depth, half inch depth. And then there's some other additional routing that we have to do to accommodate the tremolo mounting support. And basically what we'll be doing is down below here, this depth here, maybe a little bit more, like a 1/8 of an inch deeper, we'll route down and back a little bit to accommodate the down movement of the bridge. This will actually move, this part here will actually move forward, and so you have to make certain that there's no material of the body in this way. So that's kind of I really can't give you, well, let's put it this way, I guess this would work, but you could probably route, it looks at least a 5/8 to a 3/4 inch depth. And you can see it's about a, you know, the width of the router bit blade cutting in this direction will work. Now, as far as how much you route in, it's kind of like every guitar's been a little different, and I'm sure maybe it shouldn't be, but I kind of work at that. I will route it in a little bit, put the bridge there, and I check it. And you know, you kind of want to leave as much meat as possible in this area, although here you are routing to accommodate our tremolo support. But the reason being is you're going to put studs in, bushings somewhere in this area and in this area to accommodate the focal point of this bridge. That would be here and here. So the thing you want to watch out for, if you route too much here, you make this area thin. Just picture, let's say we routed it in that much, and then we drill a bushing hole here. Well, there's no meat here. You're going to have some of the bushing sticking out, or it's real thin, and when you press the bushing in, it'll split right at that point. So that might be a little bit of a trial and error for you. I hate to say it like that, but it can happen. To prevent that, drill your hole with the correct size bushing. Make some practice hole drilling on another piece of wood, primarily the same wood that you're using here. So I would use a piece of maple, and I've done this so many times, so I pretty much know the size. These are metric design bridges. They're made in Germany. From my understanding, they might be made someplace else. If they are, okay. But you may have to buy a special drill bit for the bushing for the Floyd Rose here. Floyd Rose may give you that information. I'm not sure about the size that I use. You know, there's so many things that I've done without actually having measurements or the right names of certain tools or bits or whatever I use. But what you want to do is you can eliminate all this by trying certain drill bits and try pressing drill bit sizes and try pressing in the bushings. And if you find that it's too tight, go to the next available size. Go to the next available size beyond that, and the next one beyond that, until you find what works for you. You should be able to press the bushing in, and it should feel snug, but it shouldn't be to where you really got to bear down, and because that's when you're going to be splitting the wood. there's not too much meat, like I say, in this area. So caution, be extremely careful. And if you're pressing in these bushings and doing this on your own, you're doing it at your own risk. Experimentation prior to working on your guitar is very valid. That's the route I would take. Okay, well, that about does it. The next step would be actual routing, and we'll catch that on another video. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.